Did you know that there is more and more research showing that type 2 diabetes can be prevented and in many cases reversed with lifestyle changes? Join us every Friday at noon, where we empower you with the education that can help you reverse type 2 diabetes. Hello, my name is Dr. Lynne, emergency medicine physician from Sheffield, and I'm here with my lovely co-host, Dr. Erica, GP from the West Midlands, and we are both lifestyle medicine physicians. And we're here with Lynne, our wonderful lifestyle medicine nurse. Hello. And we are here with Petya, lead diabetes dietitian from Coventry. Now, we are going to start with the burning question. What are carbohydrates? Petya, could you highlight how do you describe this topic to your patients to make it easy to understand?
Yeah, there is a lot of confusion lately, it seems. So just to keep it simple, so people know what foods contain carbohydrates, I grouped them into 3 categories. So the first one is your starchy carbohydrates. I think that's what most people think about. So your bread, rice, potatoes, anything that's made out of a flour or a grain, that will be in that category. Your second one is your sweet carbohydrates. So those could be naturally sweet things like fruit, or they could be artificially sweet things like chocolates, biscuits, cakes. And then the third category that often people forget about it is the milky carbohydrates. So lactose is also a type of carbohydrate. So milk and yogurt will also impact your blood sugars, especially if you have them in larger amounts.
And often patients are told about the glycemic index. What does it mean and how is it measured?
Yeah, certainly. So glycemic index, or GI, as sometimes it's abbreviated, it's a ranking system. So it ranks foods between 1 and 100, gives them a number, and that relates to how quickly those foods make your blood sugar levels rise after you eat them. So some foods are digested more quickly, so they cause like a quick, sharp rise in your blood sugar levels. They're called high GI foods. Whereas others, the low GI ones, they're more slowly digested. So they make your blood sugar rise more slowly and give you a steady supply of energy throughout the day. Sometimes we call those slow release carbohydrates. But glycemic index is only a guide, it's not perfect. And as always, when you focus on just one measure, people will often find ways to cheat the test. So for example, we know that fat slows down the rate at which your stomach empties, which means they will slow down any carbohydrates which are in your stomach. So if you just focus on the glycemic index of a meal, you could end up adding quite a lot of fat to reduce the glycemic index, cheating the test in a way. But fat is very calorie dense, and it'll make you more prone to potentially weight gain, heart disease, and as we've talked before, it will make you more insulin resistant as well.
And what is the take-home message for the patient then? What should people really know about the glycemic index in their daily, everyday practice and eating habits?
Yep, so to keep it simple, glycemic index, or GI, is best applied to foods, not meals, as I've shown in the fat example just now. And when you apply it to foods, essentially what it does is distinguishes between processed carbohydrates and whole food healthy carbohydrates. That's mostly what it does.
And now you just mentioned the 2 key words, processed and whole foods. So Lynne, could you highlight what are processed carbs?
Yeah, Linda, there's 2 different types. There's refined sugars and refined grains. So refined sugars are things like your table sugar. And basically it results from taking a whole fruit or veg or grain through a combination of steps like cutting, milling, extracting, steaming, drying, aka processing it, until it becomes a final product like a solid crystal, powder, flour, or syrup. And that can be sold as is, like your table sugar, or it can be added to products like sodas, sauces, pastries. Why do companies do this? Well, it's more pleasurable for you. If you think about it, you want to keep going back for more, and the companies want you to keep going back for more. So there's a bit of an addiction going on there. By manufacturing the whole food, you're removing all the protective micronutrients like your vitamins, your minerals, your fibers. So basically the food becomes nutritionally useless. So although you're getting calories from it, you're not getting anything else that the body needs. So refined sweeteners can be made in the lab from artificial ingredients or from more natural sources. Now, what we have to be really careful about is that the sweeteners are added to packaged foods and often labelled as sugar-free. So one marketing strategy we've seen recently is that they label them as diabetic friendly. Because there's no sugar coming into the body, they can get away with saying that. However, it still directly impacts your blood sugar control. For example, a diabetic biscuit will have no sugar in it. However, it's still got white flour, which will directly have an impact on your blood glucose. The refined grains are very similar, where the intact grain is processed into flours. And basically that's where your pasta, your baked goods, basically the things that come to mind when you think of carbohydrates. Unfortunately, the grain is stripped until you're left with just the starchy middle bit inside. And again, it has less fibre, minerals, vitamins, everything that your body needs and is essential for nutrient absorption and transport. The products that are made from these refined sugars and sweeteners and grains are absorbed very quickly into the body, which is not a good thing, because it causes havoc. The pancreas, the liver go a bit bananas thinking, what is this overload in sugar? And really what we want to be doing is focusing on a slow release, which I think Erica is going to describe for you.
Thank you, Lynne. It very much sounds like we stripped away the valuable nutrients and fiber as we got busier and busier, and we stripped away the quality of time that we have in our everyday life. And you talked about sugars and the dangers of it. And I must highlight here that we have spoken to Professor Michael Gorin about the topic of sugar proofing. And this Sunday on Afternoon Tea with Docs, we'll be speaking to Emily Ventura, professor as well, who will be addressing this problem with hidden sugars and sweeteners. So do tune in on that session this Sunday at 5 p.m. to learn a little bit more about how you can sugar-proof yourself and your children. And we have spoken about processed foods right now, but what is the opposite of processed foods? What is it that we should be eating, Erica? Please tell us a little bit more about that.
So I'm going to tell you about whole foods, which are the foods that we really want to be concentrating on. And whole foods are basically foods that look like what they look like when they're grown, unprocessed, and without any additives or artificial substances. And these foods don't typically need a food label because you can just see what it is. And whole carbohydrate-rich foods are basically foods that are made up of many molecules linked up in a long chain. And this whole package is packed full of nutrients such as vitamins, minerals, fiber, water, antioxidants, and other phytochemicals. And because of the complex architecture of these foods, they are broken down less efficiently by our digestive system, which is actually a good thing because it gives our digestive system time to extract all these amazing nutrients from the food, as well as because it takes time to process it by our digestive system. It releases glucose slowly from our gut into the bloodstream. So it prevents you from having a huge sugar spike, glucose spike in your spike in your blood glucose when you eat. And this is why Petya mentioned that sometimes they're called slow release carbs.
There's that importance with fiber, because fiber is what allows for this slow release, because you need to break down fiber, and that takes time. And once you are able to break that down, and your gut microbiome is doing the job, it allows for the sugars slowly to release into the bloodstream, and also for the nutrients to gain as much as the body requires. So Erica, do you tell us a little bit more about what fiber is in whole foods?
So yeah, fiber, we don't actually, humans don't possess enzymes to break down these non-soluble fibers for energy. So we used to think that fiber is like a broom sweeping our colon of the unwanted materials to really protect our colons. But we now know that actually this fiber is food for the trillions of bacteria and microbes that live inside of our gut. And we call this group of microbes the gut microbiota. And these whole carbohydrate-rich foods that we're talking about, they really feed the health-promoting gut bacteria. When the gut bacteria goes out of balance, it's been linked with many chronic diseases, including type 2 diabetes, inflammatory bowel disease, depression, and thyroid problems, and so on.
And when we talk about fiber, we must bring up that in the Western world, unfortunately, right now, we are only eating about 15 to 20 grams of fiber in our diet. Is that right, Petya?
Yeah, that's exactly right. The latest UK diet study that's done nationwide showed that on average, people are getting 18 grams, which is really sad when you think about the absolute minimum requirement for fiber is 30 grams. That's the minimum. There is no maximum.
And when we are talking about the minimum, it means what Erica just mentioned, that it's the minimum that we require to prevent chronic illness, right?
Yes.
So when we are looking at epidemiological studies, which are studying different geographical areas, we find that the blue zones, where people live over 100 years, the centenarians, who live without chronic diseases, and they do die from old age and not from the complications of chronic diseases. These fortunate people are eating up and above 60 grams of fiber a day, more about on the average to 80 to 100 grams, to help to prevent chronic diseases, including type 2 diabetes, inflammatory bowel disease, and depression, and other thyroid diseases, as Dr. Erica mentioned. So Dr. Erica, could you please give us a bit of examples of these carbohydrate-rich foods that are in their whole food version?
Absolutely. So examples of whole carbohydrate foods include whole grains, fruit, vegetables, beans, and lentils. We'll show you guys some real life examples in a bit. But before we do that, I'll just show you a picture to illustrate here the stark difference between processed carbohydrates and complex whole carbohydrates. You can see here there's some potatoes in the corner here. They are unprocessed. As soon as we turn them into crisps or chips, they become processed foods. Here we've got corn on the cob. They are unprocessed. And as soon as we turn them into corn syrup or corn oil, they become processed. And another example, for example, an apple is unprocessed. And as soon as we turn it into apple juice or apple sauce, they become processed.
I love that photo. Thank you for sharing it. It really does highlight the difference between the real foods as nature intended it to be, just like this orange behind me, which is full of fiber, is delicious, and there's only so much of it you can eat, and orange juice that you can really drink a lot of it because it doesn't have that key element, fiber, which stops you by making you feel full. So thank you for that. What an amazing session. I do want to ask, do you ladies think that we have missed anything from today's session that you would like to share?
Yeah. There's just one thing that, as Lynne was talking, I was just thinking, yes, people do think of processed carbohydrates when they think about carbohydrates. And I think that's one of the reasons why people go on a low carb diet and they feel better, because they've stopped having all of those processed carbohydrates. But it's almost like chucking the baby out with the bathwater. You're limiting yourself from all those health promoting whole carbohydrates.
Absolutely. That's such a key message to say, that in today's world, because mostly we are eating processed carbohydrates, once we eliminate those non-health promoting foods, we are going to feel better. And certainly, no matter where you are in your health journey, we can say, get rid of the processed foods and go on a whole food diet. Add as much as you can to increase your fiber intake.
So I think it's important that it's taken us a wee while to get our heads around what we can eat and what we can't eat. So confusion from patients is completely normal. And we've had each other to kind of bounce ideas off of. So why don't we take people through what we can actually eat?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been talking about whole carbohydrate rich foods. So I've got a massive bowl full here to show you. So I've got here some starchy parsnips and potatoes, and then these non-starchy vegetables. These are all whole carbohydrate rich foods, by the way. So I've got here some pak choy, lettuce. This is literally a rainbow of different colors, tomatoes, cucumbers, my favorite aubergine, and some peppers and carrots as well. So eat as much of this as you can. They're great for you and full of fiber.
And I would continue that with my beautiful fruit bowl here. And of course, we are missing all the blueberries and strawberries, the rainbow. And there is a lot of confusion actually around fruits and type 2 diabetes. Am I allowed to eat it? Am I not? Well, certainly we are going to tap into that in our future sessions, but rest assured that yes, you are, and you should be eating fruits. So, Petya, what have you got?
I've got the fiber superstars, so pulses. We often think about fruits and vegetables when we think about fiber, but actually per portion, your beans, your lentils are the things that have the most fiber. So you can, I'm thinking of red lentils that you can quickly add to soups to bulk them up and thicken them up. Or you can have kidney beans. You can add those to pasta sauces, again, to bulk them up and increase your fiber.
And certainly that's something that really helped me, adding lentils and beans whenever I would have been adding a lot of meat and fat. It really bulked my food up, and I increased my intake to at least 2 cans, 1 can of lentils and 1 can of beans a day, a minimum. And on top of it, all the whole foods, what Erica just mentioned, the vegetables. And for snacks, instead of processed jams, we should be adding the fruits on top of our breakfast, or anytime when you're feeling like eating something sweet. And Lynne, what have you got for our guests?
So we've been experimenting in this house with breakfasts. So we have some lovely oats here. And also, just to maybe clear up some confusion, we have some ground flaxseed, which, yes, has been processed, but that's because our body can't process it. So in order to get what we need from it, it does come in a packet, but it's quite tasty. And I recommend everybody try it. I'll show you. It's some kind of grain flax seeds. So yes, that's what we're doing in this house this week.
It's super to just add 2 spoons of flax seeds every morning to your oats, overnight oats, or if you cook it in the morning. And we will talk a little bit more about oats, where we will have a look at the types of oats and what is the best form that you should be eating it in the future. But thank you very much for today's amazing session, ladies. I have definitely learned a lot as well. And do tune in to our next session next Friday, when we will be busting the myths around fats. Thank you very much for joining us today. If you want to get in touch, please find us on Afternoon Tea with Docs on Facebook, YouTube, and you can visit our website with the same dietitian.com. Stay tuned for more information on our course for taking control of your diabetes, whom we are building with our fabulous charity called Dandelion Seeds Foundation, who can support you in the Southwest with learning about your health and wellness. Thank you very much for joining today. We hope to see you next Friday at noon, same time, same place, to learn more about type 2 diabetes. Thank you, ladies. Have a good one.
Bye.